guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode. What a weekend, you guys. What a weekend. Like, I can barely contain my excitement. Like, what a freaking weekend we just experienced. I mean, I thought just our game in itself was going to be like the biggest thing, and it really was. Our game for an Arsenal fan was the biggest thing. But when you couple that up with Spurs, man, losing to Wolves, and then United getting battered by freaking Liverpool 7-0, it couldn't have gone any better. It couldn't have gone any better. And I mean, sometimes it's just everybody gets there in their own time. I know some people felt earlier on in the season that it was meant for us to win the title, and some people really felt it after United and after Aston Villa, and it really felt like after the Bournemouth game, it clicked for a lot of people, including me. When that ball hit the back of the net, I swear I was in tears, you guys. It was like it just came out of nowhere. I was so emotional. Yes, I know it's Bournemouth. And yes, I know we made hard work of it. But there's something special about this team. There's something special about this team. And I just can't get over it. Every time I see the clip of Reiss Nelson's goal, I get the same feeling, that same chill, the same like, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't blame anybody for crying, because no matter what happens in this season, it feels good to feel something. There's been last season we got a little bit of a taste of it because we were in the top 4 race. We ended up not getting in the top 4. But seasons gone by, before that, it just felt like we were participants of the Premier League and we're never really, in it to win it. And this season just feels, we're feeling all of the feelings, the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs, the disappointment, the, release, all of it. The proud, that proud feeling. I've never felt prouder of an Arsenal team, and I've seen Arsenal win the Premier League before, but I was much younger and I didn't know how long it would take to get another team that was serious. I did not think it would take 18 years for Arsenal to be for real again. And this team, you guys, I'm getting that knot in my throat. It's too much. It's too much, because no matter what happens in the season, we're going to win things with this group. This group is going to be a special group for Arsenal Football Club. I can't get over it, man. I can't get over it. That goal. I know it's Bournemouth, but So on today's show, obviously we're going to go through everything that happened in the Bournemouth match, because obviously, there's some things we have to talk about. There's the emotions. There's the last gasp winner. There's Ben White. There's everything. But there's also some things that happened before it that I think we should talk about, just because, just to round the conversation off in regards to this game. Obviously, it wasn't perfect, right? Then a little bit of shade. We will laugh at some of our rivals and what happened to them this weekend, because hello. We'll talk a little bit about some updates on injuries. We've had an update on Thrashed as well as Jesus, and a little bit on Nketiah, so we'll talk about those things. And also Arsenal women, who won the Continental Cup, which is the equivalent to the Carabao Cup. And they have snapped a 4-year trophy drought, with that trophy. And so it was a very significant win for a team that has suffered quite a bit at the hands of Chelsea. And so we'll talk a little bit about that at the end as well. So make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, and get in the chat and let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling. So Nicholas says, good afternoon, Jess. Good afternoon to you as well. Amir says, what a weekend to be an Arsenal fan. 100%. Hugo says, morning from the stage, Jess. Up the Arsenal to you as well. B and Uki says, one game closer. We are one game closer. Tony says, what a weekend. It was. I can't get over it. It was such an amazing weekend of football, especially from an Arsenal perspective. C. Wilder says, don't hate me, but aside from the Everton result, it does feel like we are clinging for dear life a little bit. I'm so nervous. We'll talk about that feeling. I do think that, we're doing what champions do when they're not playing well or not playing to the peak of their powers. You still have to find ways to win games. And that's what this team is doing. But we are not playing to the same level that we were at the beginning of the season. To be expected. No team is going to be able to carry, like the way that we were playing at the beginning of the season, nobody's going to be able to play that way for 38 games. But it does open up an interesting, conversation around, why that's happening and what needs to happen going forward to make sure that we don't lose this first place position. Akil says, hi, Jess. What's your opinion on the Man U fans' deflection reaction to their win? And Neville, it's so annoying to this at this point. It's going to be that much sweeter when we win. I mean, the first thing that I saw from a lot of United fans was, well, remember when Arsenal lost to Manchester City at the beginning of last season, 6-0? First of all, it wasn't 6-0, it was 5-0. Second of all, we had Chambers, Holding, Kolasinac, Cedric back there. We didn't have the best center back pairing in the world back there, plus Luke Shaw, plus the best right back, plus the best, goalkeeper. And we did not lose to our biggest rival. If we lost 7-0 to Spurs, I would never be able to recover. So the deflection to make it seem like it's equivalent to, yes, it was a bad loss that we had at the beginning of last season. But it's nowhere near the same because we never said that team was the best team in the world. Up until that point, I had seen so many United fans saying that they had the best center back pairing, the best manager, the best attack. Manchester City and Arsenal are not even that good. And so it's not similar, but yeah, there's a lot of deflection and a lot of silliness going on. And Neville got absolutely bodied by Graham Souness and Jamie Carragher yesterday. And I was there for it all. I loved it. Put him in his place because he's been an absolute loser this entire season. Martin N says, please go and get a can of 7-Up for Terry. I will. Thank you so much for your super chat. Let's see. Crispy says, games are getting harder, guys. We have to realize teams like Bournemouth are going to get increasingly tougher and resilient. We must do the same. Vi Huraya says, Varane and Martinez, best center back pairing. That's what they've been saying. Again, they have the best everything, but they're sitting there with like a 8-point goal differential. Like that don't sound like the best team in the world to me. But going back to the Arsenal thing, I mean, obviously there's so many good things that we can talk about, and there's so many things that also we can improve upon. This team is young and growing and is learning on the job in terms of how to be champions. So there's going to be times where we look at this team and we're like, okay, they need to improve on this, they need to improve on that. It's not to say that they're not amazing. It's just to be expected. This team is young. This manager's young. It's new, right? And these last games, I think we already proved how good of a team we are at the beginning of the season, playing the best football, the best attacking football, the best defense. Everything was like clockwork at the beginning of the season, like before the World Cup, basically. Now it's not really about that. I mean, of course, we want to see good goals and see nice football, but right now it's just about winning games. And like one of you guys said, teams are going to be so desperate because they're going to be trying to, win games themselves because they're in trouble. They're trying to get into the top 4. They're trying to get Europe. They're trying to stay out of the relegation zone. And so Arsenal are just going to have to adjust. Every single team that comes to the Emirates is going to sit in a deep block. The teams that are down at the bottom, like the bottom 7 teams probably, because they're all kind of smashed down there and are in are being threatened by relegation. So Don't expect anything different. We're going to still have to unpick the lock. The issue that we kind of have is that, like, because, they're sitting in such a deep block and we commit so many men forward, more than we did at the beginning of the season, we're committing more now because there's no pockets anymore. There's no space. There's no place for us to transition. It's just basically them sitting 11 men behind the ball and us trying to commit 9 players, 10 players into that attacking half to try to like get things going. But then it's just like route one football into our half. And a lot of times, especially the last couple of games, we've seen teams barreling down with 3 players. And we just have Saliba and Gabriel back there. And so that's, the high risk, high reward type of thing that we play. And it's just worse now because of it. We really set ourselves up poorly against Bournemouth, first of all, because we conceded a goal so early, so it's not going to be pretty from here on out. We just have to kind of get the points. We have strung together 4 wins in a row in a difficult part of the season. I don't think that can be overlooked. But let's just get into it. Let's start off with the lineup. The lineup came out, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that we had done some light rotation. Remember, I told you guys in the preview that I wanted to see some players get some rest ahead of the Sporting match. Tomiyasu comes in for Ben White, and Vieira came in for Xhaka, which for me was fine. It felt almost as though like, okay, Tomiyasu is going to be a little bit more of like a defensive player to kind of, it's with Xhaka there, he's so much more like sturdy and reliable, a more reliable 2-way player than Vieira. Maybe putting Tomiyasu back there and making him play more like a 3 instead of a 2, like how we play with just Gabriel and Saliba when Xhaka's there. That was the change that kind of Arteta was looking at. I'm assuming that, but that may have not been what he was thinking, but that's what it felt like. So I was perfectly fine with that. But the issue is that literally we gave up a goal in the first 9 seconds of the game. And I mean, you guys, when I tell you that I had just gotten out of the shower, was putting my sweatshirt on, and was about to go out and get my laptop out so I can watch the game. And I heard some noise coming from Terry's like office. And I was like, please don't let it be us. Please don't let it be us unless it's good. Because I could tell that somebody had scored a goal. And I was like, please don't let it be what I think it is. Open my laptop, 1-0 Bournemouth. And I'm just like, my whole body just goes like, oh, shit. Because teams like this, once they have something to hold on to and we have to push even more, it opens up those gaps even further for them to exploit us on the counterattack. We know that, and it was just the manner of it. Arteta actually said in his press conference that they knew, like Arsenal knew they were going to do that. They had already planned for it. They knew that they were going to run some sort of play like this at the beginning. And I think Arteta was frustrated to see that we still fell for it. And it was a smart play by Bournemouth. It was like they stuck 5 or so players on one side. And then, Zinchenko, as you can see on this still, is way too narrow. I don't think Vieira does a good job either. He doesn't seem switched on either. And so, we got caught flat-footed in the first 9 seconds. I think that's the second fastest goal scored in Premier League history. That's definitely not something that you want attributed to you. We should be much smarter than that. And it just put us in a position where against a team that was going to sit in deep, we had to score 2 goals, from that moment. And I think it just set us in a bad position. But also in terms of the lineup, I think then you're kind of thinking, okay, Tomiyasu isn't really the most adventurous right back. You really just kind of want him sitting in, puts a lot more pressure on us. Like the way that we set up was not conducive to an early goal going in, right? But it was brilliant play from Bournemouth and really, really poor from Arsenal. And from that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, we have definitely got to try to score a goal. Like now. Like I just kept watching because, once we go down, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like time goes by so fast when we're losing. And time goes by so slow when we're winning. So the time was just ticking away. And I was like, okay, in the 25th minute, if we haven't equalized, we're in trouble. And of course, it took us a long time to get our first goal. Let's see. A cow says the okay, well, oh, and also like you guys are saying, obviously a couple of their players have encroached before the ball was kicked and all that kind of stuff. And so obviously that goal should have been chalked off, but they were never going to chalk that off for us, you guys. Like, it was the perfect slam dunk from a Premier League entertainment prime time thing. It was like Arsenal got on a 9-second goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were never going to chalk that off. No matter what. So yeah, but it just wasn't a good start from Arsenal. And I really do think Arteta is going to get into them about that, because he mentioned it in his press conference that they knew that Bournemouth would do something like that. Let's see. Ash says, if you can't rotate for Bournemouth at home, when can you? I don't know if I can attribute that goal. Like, let's say they don't score that goal. I don't think that we lose the game. Do you know what I mean? I think it goes kind of similarly to the way that Everton goes if we don't give up that initial goal. I don't 100% think that we gave that goal away because of the changes. I think the team in general just got caught sleeping. So we know we can rotate. We've played teams that have been rotated. We've rotated away from home, like whether you like it or not, whether it was forced or enforced or not. We've played games with Thrashed and Jorginho, and we know that if we have our entire team, those players don't play. So, and we've also played with Tomiyasu sometimes. We play with Tierney sometimes. So we know we can rotate. I know that people want to put 1 and 2 together and say, well, the reason why we were losing, 2-0 was because we had Vieira and Tomiyasu out there. But or maybe just Vieira, because Vieira was there for the two goals, but I don't really believe that they're the reason. Is Vieira and Tomiyasu the reason why we conceded that second goal? No. And I just think when you give up a goal that early, it just sets everything back and screws you up a bit. But I do think we can rotate. We just were caught sleeping, and that wasn't good. O'Malley says, scored on in 2 games in the first 5 minutes in the last 4 games. Scored on in 2 games in the first 5 minutes in the last 4 games. It was opposite at the beginning of the season. Got to get back to our fast starts. So the fast starts don't happen as much now because teams sit in so much on us now. So before, remember when Newcastle, we really should have scored on, we should have scored early against Newcastle at home, but then they shut up shop, and then it got into like horseshoe and struggling to create chances and stuff like that. Ever since they did that, teams have not come out on us anymore. You know what I mean? And so I really do think like the fact that teams are not coming out anymore makes it difficult for Arsenal to get those fast starts, but equally it makes it so much easier for them to get possession and be in on us on goal right away. We can have 20 minutes of possession, but these teams can get the ball one time, kick it into the channel, and be basically in on goal 3v2, 2v2, whatever. And so I think it's just a matter of Arsenal, going back to what we were doing, what we did against Leicester, more than anything. I think that was our best defensive performance, you know what I mean, in the last couple of games. And I think that was just more because we were super, super on it. Whereas against Aston Villa, we weren't really at our best. Against Everton, we really could have been punished there as well. So it's a matter of, I think, when you're going up against the deep blocks, knowing that sometimes you don't have to go full force and have all 10 of your players in their half going at it for like every single minute. Maybe drop off a little bit, let them come to you, and then try to hit them on transition and stuff like that. Because right now, basically what we have is like the perfect template for people to just kick it down the pitch and be in on goal on us, no matter how good we are in possession, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? But those fast starts, it's so hard to get now because there's just no space for us to attack early on. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Marco says, I was okay with Vieira. Not great game from him, but I can see how he'll evolve in that role. He didn't get bullied as much on Saturday, and it was in it like he did in his first few games. I agree with that. It wasn't amazing from Vieira for sure, but it definitely wasn't like terrible. I just feel like it was just a meh type of game from him. Boy says Bournemouth were clever with their set pieces. It's not a surprise or anything. We don't give away lots of set pieces though. So yeah, it was one of those where when you start off like that, it really does kind of like rock you a little bit. And so from there, I do think that the first half was just kind of like Arsenal trying to kind of break through, but really struggling to, and then them being able to counter. And they had several opportunities to do so, this being one of them. We have to talk about Aaron Ramsdale because we're talking a lot about Reiss Nelson and Ben White and, Partey and players like that. But if this guy is not in form, we are nowhere near where we are right now. He is in excellent form. And, game state in this game really did mean that we had to be more open and push for goals. I think sometimes we're a little bit too open, kind of like against Manchester United when we went we got level with them, and then we pushed again, and then we left ourselves open at the back and had the sucker punch 1-2 with Rashford. I feel like sometimes we're so desperate to play our way and to push that we leave ourselves open when we don't really need to. But game state against Bournemouth, we were pushing, and had Ramsdale not been as good as he is, I mean, we could have been 2-0 down early in that first half, and he saved us. You look at this situation where it looks like, Thrashed and Saliba are running back. There's two guys open in the box on the back side, and Ramsdale makes an excellent save. He makes an excellent save there. You guys, like, if he does not make this save, we are effed. You know what I mean? And it makes me go back and think about, Spurs away when he made 4 or so saves, point blank, like a couple against Son, a couple against Kane, where that game could have looked so different had he not made those saves. Villa away, the chance that he saved from Leon Bailey's shot. And then against Bournemouth, this save that, like, obviously I think better players probably put it away, but because Bournemouth players are not very good and Ramsdale is a good goalkeeper, he was able to keep them from putting it in the back of the net. And I think if we do win the Premier League, we'll look back on some of these moments and say, these were very significant moments for us to win the title. And you look back, especially like you look at somebody like Alisson, I do think Liverpool fans look back a lot on some of the saves that he's made in his time at Liverpool, because they play quite similar to us, where they kind of bank on going so kind of like, we're going to attack you. And if you try to attack us, we back ourselves enough to, our defenders are good enough 1v1 and in big spaces that we can, win most of those battles. And you only get 1 or 2. So if you don't put them away, you're not going to get anything else. But on the odd chance that you do beat a Van Dijk and you beat Konate, you beat Matip, you beat whoever, we have our goalkeeper back there that's going to save our bacon. And I feel very similarly about Ramsdale. Is he as good as Alisson yet? No. But Ramsdale is showing signs of a goalkeeper that could one day be world class. Remember, he's only 25 years old. And I always go back to how I think, abusive our fan base was to him. He'd probably gotten some of the worst abuse from an Arsenal perspective before when he signed for us. But my God, he has been excellent, for us in these last couple of games. You have got to look at some of the saves that he's made and say, look, this guy is saving us in some ways as well. Let's see what you guys are saying. Martin says, yep, I thought it was going to be 2-0 at that point. Ash says, if you play this high of a line, you need a goalkeeper to save you, much like Alisson does. Exactly. Let's see. Crispy says, that save had big impact for sure. C. Walder says, Rambo has handed us points recently. I agree. Stefan says, oh my God, Ramsdale form went up. I mean, it's just great. Like I can't. There's just some things that just stand out to you, especially when you're really fighting for stuff. And I think Ramsdale's form is something that's not being spoken about enough, but it's so significant. I don't know why people aren't talking about it, because this guy has been saving us. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Thub says it's crazy. He's not even 25 yet. So yeah, he's 24. My bad. But he's gonna be 25. He's 24 until he's 25. But he's a young goalkeeper, and he's really, really showing that in moments of adversity, he can be somebody that can stand up. And sometimes I do have my worries about Ramsdale, where I'm like, is he gonna calm us down and make the saves when it really matters? But he's really showing that he can. Legume says Ramsdale is the third best goalkeeper in the league and should be England's number one. The Sheikh AFC says our defense is vulnerable to attacks from the wings, which is genuinely concerning and needs fixing quickly. I don't know if that's going to change, because that's just the way that we play. I mean, maybe it's something to look at, but I'm just not sure that it's going to change based on the way that we play. But yeah, so Ramsdale definitely had a big part to play in that first half. But as you guys can see, like, I'll add it back to the screen so you guys can see, this is Thrashed running back here. And this is actually when he pulls his groin muscle. And, Thrashed had to come off in the first half. The update on him, which I will pull up here and read it to you guys, is that, where is it? Where is it? Arsenal are optimistic that Thrashed did not suffer a serious groin injury against Bournemouth and hope he could return before the international break. Initial assessment of the injury is positive, and Thrashed is due to have further tests on Monday. That is today. And I also read that, he'll most likely be out against Sporting, but they don't expect him to be out very long. And so I think that's good news for Arsenal, because we can't lose any more players right now. But Thrashed, he felt something. He made sure he didn't risk himself. He came off and didn't exacerbate the injury further. And so, he probably won't be able to go to Portugal. And so maybe they will take a risk on Nketiah or something like that, to make sure that we have a recognized striker or somebody that plays there more often in the squad. But, Thrashed, I think, was having an okay game. And it's unfortunate that he had to come off. It really is. But yeah, that is good news that it's not going to be long term. If the international break, I think, is after March 19th or something like that. So, if we can have Jesus and Thrashed back after that, I think we'll be in a good place. But of course, I know people want them back now, but we need them for the run-in. I'd rather them not be risked before that. Sin says, is that crunchy sound on your mouse the wheel? I thought my laptop was busted. Yeah, it is. See? Oh! That's this little, thingy. So that's the sound. Matt G says, I was worried when he went straight down the tunnel, but he was probably just frustrated because he knows Jesus is close to being back. Boy says, it's become clear to me. Oh, you guys are still talking about United. I'll talk about them a little bit later, but you guys can continue in the chat, obviously. Legume says, genuinely excited about Thrashed. He has been excellent. I think he's been a great signing so far as well. Yeah, so basically that's decent news, from Thrashed perspective. And then ESR came on to replace him. And we'll talk a little bit about, how ESR played in that match as well. But there's 170 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's move forward a little bit too. I want to spend a little bit of time on this, but not too much. Just because I know some people are going to be like, what about, the refereeing decisions or the lack thereof? Obviously, we had a couple of penalty shouts. We had one early on. I think that was like the most probably the first one that's in the left-hand corner, that one was definitely for me under the sleeve, and he missed the header and it hit him on the arm. Not quite sure why that wasn't called for a handball and penalty in the box. Then we had the Tomiyasu situation here on the right in the right-hand corner. Not quite sure why that's not a penalty. He clearly kicks his leg out from underneath him. Like, it's really weird that wasn't called as a penalty either. This one where Odegaard hits it into his arm, I think because of close proximity and the fact that the guy is turning, that's why they didn't call that one. And then you have the Billing one where they also said it was close, but his arm was in a natural position. But on the base, like having all four of those and not one of them being called as a penalty for me was a little bit sus. I'm just thinking to myself, like, what are the odds? But it did feel kind of like they were like, we don't want to give them anything. You know what I mean? But it was really frustrating to have these situations and not see a single one go your way, when you could see that if the shoe was on the other foot, they probably would have called us for at least one of those. And there is a complete lack of consistency. And it's just annoying. But yeah, the first two, the top ones for me, were the ones where I was really looking at them like, he totally kicked Tomiyasu's leg. I just don't know how you can do that in the box and it not be called for a foul. And the very first one where he misses the header completely and it hits him on the arm and it's below the sleeve, that's a penalty in a handball. Like, I just don't get it. But as Billy G says, the lack of consistency is a joke. Martin N says, get ready for not getting any penalty call for the remainder of the season. Apsis says the first one was the same as Tavares one last season. It really was. Like, I know exactly which one you're talking about, where his hand is up like this and it hits him on the arm and it kind of rolls off. I know what you're talking about. It's very similar. And it's just, how is that not, I just don't get it. The one against United at home, exactly. They gave the pen then. It's just the lack of consistency is so annoying. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it because we know how these referees are and, but I just wanted to put them up there and just show them to you guys because a lot of people were talking about it. Had we had not scored that goal, or Reiss Nelson had not scored that goal, I think we'd be talking about this a lot more. As that says, the kick on Tommy was a penalty. The others were not, but we saw them given. Yeah, and that's maybe a little bit is like you've seen them given in the past, and if it's not a penalty, then it shouldn't have been called before. I think that's the lack of consistency. But yeah, I could not believe that he kicked Tommy. He kicked his foot, did not kick the ball, and in any other situation, that's a foul. Like, how could you just kick him? It makes sense. O'Malley says Neto should have been sent off for time wasting. What's funny about this is that early on in the game, in the commentary that I could hear, I think it was I forget who. It'll come to me who the guy was that was talking, but he was saying it was like 20 minutes in. And he was like, oh, Bournemouth time wasting already. You wouldn't want to do that. And the good thing about what happened against Aston Villa and what happened against Bournemouth is that teams are also saying that, like, even though you're time wasting, like, you're not getting anywhere with it, you're still losing the games. And what's bad is that their players are accruing all these time wasting yellow cards and stuff like that. And it looks really, really bad. And one of the things that I do like that they're talking about instituting in the Premier League is kind of what they had in the World Cup, where they almost like do the stopwatch and stop time. And if they start doing that and the clock stops, then whatever the amount of time is at the end of the game, if it's 10, 15 minutes of stoppage time, then it's 10, 15 minutes of stoppage time. And that'll stop the small teams from doing it. And what really frustrates me is that the big teams, our rivals, are the ones that just get over it. Who cares if they're time wasting? They do it to everybody. And I'm like, but when it happens to you, then you get upset by it. I think all big teams should be happy to see teams winning off of the back of, stoppage time that is rightfully given, because all big teams suffer from this, where these little teams, sorry, not little teams, but like the lesser teams, the teams that are at the bottom of the table, come to their ground and kick the ball out, roll around on the ground, fake injuries, hold on to the ball, lay down on the ball, do all this stuff to waste time, and the ball is never in play. And every single big team, for me, should be looking at what happened against Aston Villa for us and against Bournemouth for us as well, and say good, because once they institute that rule, that small teams will have to play ball. And we know that they can't play toe-to-toe with us, so they have to resort to cheating. And so when the other rivals are sitting there talking shit, I'm like, but you should be happy because this is what happens to you guys as well, and all that time wasting is really, really, it's getting to the point now where it is such a joke, like Newcastle did it, and then now everybody comes to the Emirates and doesn't want to play ball. I cannot wait till they institute that rule. I cannot wait. I don't care if there's 20 minutes extra stoppage time at the end, and you have to play. You have to play. Every single time the ball goes out, the time should stop, period. So they'll stop doing that nonsense. And yes, we do a little bit of it as well, but I back our team to win without that. It's gotten to the point where it's actually like, it's ridiculous how little football you play against the smaller teams. It really, really is. So I can't wait to see, what they do with that, but it would be really nice to see them institute that rule. Matt says the ball is in play an average of 58 minutes per game. Something needs to be done. I agree. Alex says FA can only fine Arsenal, but not correcting the wrongs that they've done against us. They're obviously investigating our celebrations as well from this game, which is a joke. Focus on this nonsense here. This is ridiculous. Azat says the World Cup refereeing was good. We need to adapt these methods in the Premier League next season. It really stops some of that nonsense of teams just, and the faking of the head injury. I think that's another thing as well, is that now that people have cottoned on to, and I've seen our players do it as well, and I don't like it. I just feel like the concussion rule should be used only if you've actually gotten kicked in the head. We're seeing people get hit in the arm or hit in the stomach, hold their head, roll around on the ground so that the referee will stop the game. Amadou Onana did that 4 times in the first half against us when we played them the other day on Wednesday. And I just feel like they have instituted a rule for the well-being of players that end up with concussions and head injuries and things that last beyond their career and are really detrimental to their health beyond them playing on the pitch. And players are using it now to try to get a leg up, in matches. And I don't like it because it's a joke. And it's like the little boy who cried wolf. Next time you get kicked in the head, I'm not going to be thinking you actually got kicked in the head. I'm just going to be like, well, you just are faking injury again. I just feel like that's just something that needs to be looked at as well. Like if you didn't get kicked in the head and you start rolling around, they still should not be stopping the game for you. And I also feel like, if they do stop the game for you and, VAR, like I do feel like VAR should be used for this as well. If a player is not kicked in the head, but they roll around and hold their head and shit like that and the game is stopped, they should get a yellow card for simulation to stop that shit because it's just getting ridiculous. Tony says, I've investigated the Arsenal celebration at the end of the game and the conclusion is everyone can suck it. I love that. Exactly. So I didn't want to spend too much time on it because we have so much stuff to get through. But I just wanted to make sure that I at least said something about it because I knew somebody would be like, but what about the refereeing situations? So going back to the game, obviously Tomiyasu comes off at halftime for Ben White, which for me, I think was the right call. I love Tomiyasu to death, but he does seem like the type of player that needs a couple of games to get his legs underneath him. I thought he struggled against Manchester City. That move didn't really work and we lost the game, not because of him, but the mistake that he made early on was not good. And then seeing him in this game, I just felt like I was desperate to get Ben White onto the pitch because, one, we were then chasing the game. Desperately, we needed more goals, and he's just not going to really help. And we know some of our best attacking – sorry, you guys. I know it went glitchy there for a second. But some of our best attacking play comes from that right-hand side with Odegaard, Saka, and Ben White. And so not having Ben White, you just kind of felt like, okay, this is the change that needs to be made. And somebody said in the comment section just a couple of minutes ago that we need to talk about Arteta's ruthless subs lately. He's learning. Remember when we used to, kind of talk about how we wish Arteta would sub earlier and not trust people as long and make decisions quicker? He's doing that now, so it needs to be recognized. He was not afraid to hurt ESR's feelings. He was not afraid to hurt Tomiyasu's feelings. He yanked them both out, and those two changes were really the reason why we won the game. And so, no shade to ESR or Tomiyasu, but making those changes are the reason why we won the game. So, once we went 1-0 down, we needed Ben White to push for those goals. So I'm not really surprised Arteta made that change. The one thing I will say is that at halftime when we were losing 1-0, I was desperate to talk to somebody, and I called my mom. My mom is a huge Arsenal fan as well, but she's obviously in America on the West Coast, and so I know it was early for her, but I still called because I assumed that she would be up watching. And I called, and I was like, "We're losing," and she was like, "Oh, are we?" I was asleep. Woman, you weren't awake? So I'm just suffering alone. And she was like, "It's fine. It's this and that." And I'm just like distraught. I'm like, "We're losing. And it's Bournemouth. And it's this and it's that. And blah, blah, blah." And she's just like, "It's fine. I'm going to get my coffee. I'm going to get up. Going to get my Thierry jersey. I'm going to hold that." It was so funny. Yeah, my mom was sleeping through the first half, y'all. The second half rolled around. And in the 57th minute, we went down 2-0. Now, what I'll say about this is this goal was Thomas Partey's fault. And I'm not afraid to say so. It really was. He made the silly foul. One of their players nutmegged him, and he pushed him down on the ground. Unnecessary foul to give away. And then he loses his man in the box, and then his man scores the goal. So for me, Thomas Partey is a big boy. It's your fault. It's on you. We go 2-0 down. They're celebrating. I'm sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh my gosh, it couldn't get any worse. But we scored in the 67th minute or 62nd minute. 5 minutes later, from a scrappy goal on a corner, and ESR pops the ball back up into the air. Thomas Partey is the first one to react, and he slots it home, grabs the ball, and runs back. I love players that make it their mission to right their mistakes or to make up for their mistakes, right their wrongs, make up for their mistakes. I think it shows character. When Gabriel did it against Fulham, I thought that showed character. Players make mistakes, but I like players that make it their mission to make it up. And I think it's not a coincidence that Thomas Partey was the player that made the difference in that, and was ultimately a big catalyst for why we scored the third goal. I think that second goal woke that team up, and especially Thomas Partey, who's one of our best players. I think he felt like he needed to make it right, and so he went up there and scored the first goal. And I was just like, from here on, we are full speed ahead, because we look different from that moment. But yeah, Partey was definitely culpable for that second goal that went in for Bournemouth. But I like that he made it right away. And from that minute, at the 62nd minute, we had about 30 minutes to get it together. And I don't know about you guys, but I started to feel like, okay, we could probably do this. We just needed to get one goal, and Bournemouth were not good enough. First of all, they're one of the teams most likely to throw away a lead. They throw away leads all the time. And so once you got planted that one seed in their head that like, oh shit, Arsenal are scoring one goal, I think from there you could see us scoring another and another, Billy says Partey should have picked up Billing's run for our first goal as well, but the general still had a great game. Yeah, they just all, for me, on that first goal, I just think, I'm just going to say that's team, but yeah, he should have done better for that. And, but you have to be willing to make it up and to put that mistake on your back and say, you know what, I'm going to make it right. And I think he did that for sure and had an excellent 30 minutes at the end. James says Partey is a classic Gunner player, have to go down to ignite into a performing the way that he can. Let's see. Boy says, let's talk about Arteta. Okay, yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. Ash says everyone was sleeping. Erik says Partey started the comeback. His goal opened up the floodgates. Exactly. So it's one of those where, from there I could feel that we could probably get another one. And it was a scrappy goal, but who cares? Like at that point, you just need to get the points on the board, and we were doing that. And so after that, 7 minutes later, Reiss Nelson came in for ESR, and I don't really want to like kill ESR too much because obviously he got the assist for the Thomas Partey goal, but I thought that he looked like a player that hasn't played in a while, and I was wanting a little bit more directness and a little bit more because he just kept passing kind of like sideways. He wasn't really taking his man on. He was just a little bit, he was there and he was playing all right, but he wasn't really doing enough. And so, I was excited to see what Reiss Nelson could do, even though I wasn't quite sure what that was going to be because we haven't seen Reiss Nelson in a while. And I think something that cannot be overlooked is the fact that I don't even think Reiss Nelson would have been on the bench for this game if Nketiah had been fit, because he wasn't on the bench against Everton when Nketiah was there. And so it may have just been the perfect ripple effect and the perfect domino for Reiss Nelson to be left out against Everton, come back into the side because of Nketiah injury, have ESR come in before you, and then be taken off. And then you come in for the final 20 minutes of the game. And to have the mentality to come out there and be the game changer for me was just like, I could have never imagined it. But Reiss Nelson does have a skill set that we were missing. And it was a little bit of that directness, and he was doing the things that I was desperate for some of our players to do, which was get the ball in the box and make them make mistakes, not these like little floaty chip balls, not holding onto the ball for a long time and then taking a shot that just goes into somebody's ankles. Make your decision early, hit the ball, but hit it well. And that's what he was doing. I mean, he had to put in like 4 or 5 crosses. He was so active and so direct and taking his man on, and that's what tires them out. And one thing about defenders, especially defenders that aren't great, they're going to make a mistake. They're going to not track you. They're going to, dive in every once in a while. And because Nelson just kept going at his defender and kept getting into those spots and kept putting those balls into the box, we started to get more and more chances. Now, what I wrote here is like, yeah, he was direct, he was decisive, and he made good decisions. And he was unbelievable. It wasn't just the goal at the end. It was the entire performance from the time that he got on the pitch to the time that ball left his toe and went into the back of the net in the 97th minute. He was excellent. So for the second goal, Thomas Partey picks up the ball, which again was him being a catalyst and really pushing the team forward. He was up on the edge of the box, dribbling through. And that's another thing, is when you're sit up against low blocks, you have got to have dribblers and people that move players around. Thomas Partey was doing that, and he was able to kind of jink around 2 or 3 of their players, find Nelson in the seam. Nelson hits the ball across the box, a well-hit cross with his left foot, and who comes and shows up at the back post? You guys, what a freaking time to score your first Arsenal goal. What a time to score your first Arsenal goal. I knew it would hit like crack, but my gosh, was that the best crack pipe I've ever had. I was like, wow, Ben White, because it went over. And I think that added to the drama a little bit. It's like, did it go over? Did it go over the line? Did it? And it did. And when I tell you, like, that's the first moment where I got like really emotional, because I was like, yes, Ben, yes. Because I love Ben White, you guys. Like, literally, he's everything. Like, he is just everything about him, like his demeanor, the way people get upset because he doesn't like football and all this kind of stuff, and how he's just like so dismissive of people, and like it's just great. I love everything about him. But he, like, that goal that he scored, I thought my brain was going to explode, because you just could feel it coming. And it happened 1 minute after Reiss Nelson entered the game. 1 minute. 69th minute, Nelson on for ESR. 70th minute, back of the net, back post, Ben White. Absolutely, like, it was just a moment. Like, it was just a moment. I wish I could go back so I could feel it again, because that feeling was just like, I don't even know. Arteta subs combined for the equalizer. And what a time to get your first Arsenal goal. Ben fucking White. My goodness. I love you. Absus says, Benny deserves so much. He has been immense for us, even last season. He really has been. And, there was a lot of damage done to him by, obviously, Gary Neville at the beginning of last season off of one performance. But he was good last season. He's good this season. I mean, he's been the best right back in the league. And it's not close either. So, I mean, he is just I cannot get over that goal. I can't get over his performance. I thought he was absolutely the exact thing that we needed in that moment. And it's unfortunate for Tomiyasu, because I do feel like earlier on in the season, it felt like they were quite close. But when you see the difference between the two of them, you can tell that there is a gap in quality between, like a significant gap in quality between Ben White and Tomiyasu. And that's not, to shade Tomiyasu in any way. I love Tommy, but I'm just finding that, at the end of the day, like, Ben White is just the starter. Like, he just is, like, and Stefan says, sorry, Jess, why do I feel confused about your timeline? It seemed to me Nelson played 2 whole minutes before the assist. Such was our pace and tempo. If you go back to the timeline, Nelson comes in the 69th minute and Ben White scores in the 70th. That's what the timeline said on Google. When you go to, you look down and you look on the timeline, that's what it says. So whether it was 2 minutes or 1 minute, basically with Nelson's first piece of play, he puts in the assist for Ben White. But if it's 2 minutes, it is what it is, Doug says, Jess, Ben White is softer than tissue paper. Great season though. Sure. Sin says, Gebel. Okay, you guys are talking about Gary Neville. Ash says, Ben is much better in the final third than Tomiyasu. I agree. Azat says, Ben has been tired and needed a rest. He got it and now plays well again. I agree. So yeah. And at that moment, obviously, at 2-2, the feeling from there is, can we get the third? Can we get the third? And there is something I want to show you guys that I really loved in these moments. And I think this is what, I know it's not much, and people will say, like, why do you guys get so, invested in things like this? But I think it's because we just haven't had it in a long time. And so I just want to show this little clip really quick of just the togetherness and the love that all these players have. Look at this guy. Look at him coaching. I know it's small and it doesn't really mean a lot to a lot of people, but I haven't seen a team togetherness like this. This is somebody that came in January and is on the sideline, knows he's not going to come in, and is coaching, trying to get the boys over the line. Y'all. Everybody's playing their part. Everybody believes we can do this. It feels like it's happening. And, time is ticking away. Bournemouth continue to waste time. When the stoppage time came up, Arteta signaled. He signaled for the 7 minutes, and we were given 6. This, by the way, this picture is so funny now, knowing that we know what we know about what happened to Manchester United. But the 7 minutes, we didn't get them. We got 6, but we got the 7 anyway. Because Bournemouth players continue to waste time. And the narrative after the fact that we somehow cheated because we only had 6 minutes, but we scored in the 97th, for me is just first of all, it's a minimum of 6 minutes. But if Bournemouth continue to waste time, that time gets tacked on more. And Neto went down, their players were going down, wasting more time. And so we got that additional minute added on. And we should have. It will stop these players from faking injury if they're punished more harshly every single time that they do these things. But time was ticking away. And I have to say, around this moment, I was kind of thinking, all right, well, we're probably going to end up with the draw. And I was absolutely devastated. But then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, It's better than nothing. You know, this could be detrimental, but at the same time, like, at least we didn't lose. And Zinchenko comes up with a shot that's deflected out for a corner. And I thought that was the moment. I was like, that was it. But we have the last corner. We have the last chance. And you guys, Reiss Nelson. Reiss Nelson. What the hell? I mean, after, you know, he was talking about how he wanted the ball to come to him because he wanted a chance. Weak foot, he struck it perfectly. And when it hits the back of the net, I kid you guys, I cannot explain to you what the emotions felt like. I'm sure you guys can understand because I'm sure you felt it as well. I have never felt that way. I haven't felt that way in a long time, but like, I feel like because I was so young when Arsenal were so good that I didn't really feel it the way that I'm feeling it now. And that feeling, I just crumbled to the ground. I fell off the couch. I threw my laptop and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then it's just like the noise and the feeling. And it's just like, I can't even, because I'm like a wimp anyway, but I just feel like this team is going to really make me cry all the time because, like, Reiss Nelson, the forgotten man, one of our own, the original star boy, wasn't even in the team against Everton, comes on, gets a goal and assist in a game that felt lost. And the celebrations at the end, you guys, I mean, I know it's Bournemouth, like, I get that. I don't feel like I need to say that anymore. But Saliba running to the corner flag, Martinelli picking up the ball, like, what are you doing? I mean, Odegaard on the ground. It's just this team, like, I cannot get over it. I cannot get over it. It was just, I'm still getting goosebumps from it all. Ben White, shithouse, because Neto hit him in the head for when he did punch the ball out. He hit him in the back of the head, and then Ben White comes up and gives it. It's just, everything about it is just, it gives me chills. It really, really does every single time I see it, and it feels special, you guys. It really, really does. And I have a couple little clips here that are fucking hilarious. Here's the first one. Let me go back.
This is it.
Right.
Come on, get your phone ready, Gary. Get your phone ready, filming.
Are we all eating right or what? Beautiful. We were all eating right. I mean, we were all Ian Wright, weren't we? And then follow it up with this, which it's just so much chaos going on. I'm just like, what does this even mean?
Can't believe it.
If you guys don't know what's happening in this clip, basically, a kid gets out there for the celebrations, and Arteta goes to high five him, and then realizes that he's a child, and he holds his hand like he's looking for his mom.
Can't believe it.
This is so much chaos and confusion going on, but it's absolutely brilliant. And it was just a day to remember. I mean, hoping that this means something at the end of the season, but I have to just be honest with you guys, like, regardless of what happens, I'm just glad that I felt something, and I haven't felt anything for a long time in terms of this team. And I feel, even with the FA Cup win, as great as that was, it didn't feel like this. It didn't feel like this. And you guys, I understand, like, if I get a copyright, I'll just take it out of the show. But I'm more concerned about hanging out with you guys and stuff like that. If they give me a copyright strike, I'll just take it out of the recording. It's fine. But literally, like, I did not feel like this when we won the FA Cup. And I know it's like, but we won a title, or we won a trophy. I didn't feel any connection to that group of players. The majority of them, like Tierney, I loved. But for the majority of that group, I didn't feel anything like what I feel for this group, you know? And so seeing the way that they celebrate and how far that they've come and how much they live and breathe for the badge and how they've changed how people view Arsenal and brought the fans back. Like, it's just, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Like, you've been on this journey long enough to know that this team is different, not just because that they're a really good group of players, like, that are good at football, but because they love to be at Arsenal. And that seems so simple, like, but we know what we've been through. So yeah, I don't want to be emotional. All right. So, but Nelson, what a day. He goes down in history. He's a legend in my mind, just for that strike alone and that cameo. But 3 goals and 2 assists on the season, where he has less than 90 minutes of football played, is being like, he is going to potentially get a new contract at Arsenal. He's in contract talks, which is something that, you know, I think a lot of us have had in the back of our mind, like, will he, won't he, or will we, won't we give him a new contract? His deal runs out at the end of the season, but Arsenal are in talks with Reiss Nelson over a new contract. Discussions over an extension are underway, with hope growing that the intention from all parties is to agree a deal for Nelson to stay. He never wanted to leave, obviously, like, he's an Arsenal boy through and through. And Nelson is such an interesting one because he was like the original star boy. He was the boy that was coming through in the academy that everybody said would make it, and had some injury issues and who knows what else, because we don't ever know what's going on behind the scenes. But it just felt like he had kind of lost his way, and then he was sent out to Feyenoord and he came back, and, you know, he was good against Nottingham Forest, but then got another injury, and then here we are. And Nelson, like, he was the original player that Arteta put his arm around. When I'll never forget that, like, I think Nelson scored the winning goal against Leeds in, like, the FA Cup in Arteta's, like, first season. And Nelson played, and at the end, you could see Arteta, like, it's funny because Ben White was on the other side. Arteta had his arm around Nelson's shoulder, and you could tell that was like his first project. His first project was Nelson. And then he kind of became like the forgotten man. And then Martinelli and Saka came to the forefront. And I don't know what the future holds for Nelson in terms of Arsenal, but I'm okay with him getting a new contract, you know, or an extension. We're going to need squad players, you know. If he can give those types of cameos, why not? And we know he's a really talented player. And we're going to need more bodies. So, you know, Nelson, I'm happy for him to get a new contract. I know some people will probably feel like he's not good enough, but I don't think that this means that Arsenal are not going to bring in another winger, you know, because we can also see that, like, with Nelson coming in and him having that cameo, you instantly feel a little bit better about the next couple of games, because if Nelson is not there, we have Thrashed and Kedia and Jesus out. And that's how quickly things can change, where it was just a couple of days ago where we felt like we had a deep bench, and now all of a sudden that bench is gone. And so we're going to need bodies. We're going to be in 4 competitions next season. And if Reiss Nelson is one of those, I'm happy for him. And I'm like, because he's one of our own, and, you know, you never get the same type of buy-in as you do with one of your own, you know? And so I'm happy for him. And I just can't get over that fucking shot. Like, I can't get over the technique. I can't get over the composure. I mean, who does that? Who does that? Boo says Reiss deserves another deal. Doesn't have to be outrageous money, but he deserves to stay here. Azat says, if Nelson is happy to be a squad player, we need to give him the contract. Boo says, Jesse getting choked up. It feels, I feel as you, if so, haha. Yeah, like, I'm a wreck. I'm a wreck right now, to be honest. Because as a football fan, you just want players that want to play for the badge, that love the club as much as you do, and it's showing up on the pitch, and you want to feel something and feel connected. And for a lot of us, we know that Arsenal is more than just a team, feels like a family and a community and stuff like that. And I don't want to get all into it but this team got me all in my feelings and shit. John says, agreed, Jess. The team is different. The mentality, the skill, the unity, the quality. The team is going to win a good amount of trophies in this decade. Let's see. Blue says, realist talk. Those of us that can remember the Invincibles playing can see the stark differences. Teams haven't been this good since 2008-9, but there hasn't been this level of togetherness. I agree. Mara says, super in the feels. Hugo says, Gabrielle collapsing. Mara says, Joseph says Martinelli needs to be more clinical. And Mark says, Halen boys doing it, had tears in my eyes. I'm not young. We all felt it, right? We all felt it. Like, there's no shame. Amira says, my only issue with a new contract is injuries. We probably haven't heard Arteta chasing him to resign like he did with Eddie last season, simply because we haven't seen him consistently long enough. Yeah, I agree. We have a couple of players that are kind of injury prone, and Reiss Nelson is one of them. But, if he is a squad player and we don't have to rely upon him that much, it might be okay. But some of that has to do with him. I think he needs to, take control over his fitness and things like that. And hopefully he can do that, because he would be such a good little squad player. He really would be. So I do understand, like, oh my gosh, but what about the injury issues? I kind of share those, but I kind of trust the club as well. Like, they know what they're doing, let's see. Abscess says he controls it with his right foot and then hits it with his left. It's crazy. It really was, like, that kind of composure and that type of moment. Just, you guys, the chills. So yeah, I like that. I like that for Reiss Nelson. And so, speaking big picture, we have just put together 4 wins in a row. After a really rough patch where, we lost to Everton, we drew to Brentford and all that kind of stuff. We lost to Manchester City, we lost in the cup. And so stringing together 4 wins, no matter what they look like, is really important. Obviously, Aston Villa and Bournemouth were full of drama, but the 2 in between were a little bit more smooth sailing. So hopefully we kind of settle the ship a little bit from here. But I do think we're going to have more of these, just because of the emotion and the pressure and stuff like that. So I don't think these games are all going to go the way that they did at the beginning of the season, because everybody has something to lose right now. But 4 wins in a row. Manchester City hasn't even done that, you guys, in the league. They haven't put together 4 wins in a row. It's not easy to put together that amount of wins in a row, and so we just have to continue. And we've had some injury issues in between. We've managed without certain players. Like, that can't be overlooked. It's not like we just have the team from the beginning of the season where we have Thomas Partey all the time. We have Jesus and everything is settled. We're bringing other players into the fold. Things are a little bit different. Teams are playing against us differently. So those 4 wins are massive. Another big picture is we found Reiss Nelson. Like I was just saying, Jesus and Thrashed injuries. Jesus was seen doing warm down and a little bit of like contact training after the match. And so they haven't ruled him out for the Sporting game, but it's most likely that he won't make that. But he is pushing and he's getting closer, which is good, because Thrashed is out. And with Nketiah, they're going to make a decision whether or not they want to kind of push to have him go to Portugal as well. So we're kind of without like a center forward right now. And I know that people say Martinelli, but I think generally Martinelli is a left winger for us. So again, one day you feel like you have a lot of depth and the next day you don't. It's wild. And third and final thing is we maintained our 5-point gap on City, who won this weekend, so that can't be overlooked either. Winning that game in hand was so important, and also making sure we didn't bottle it against Bournemouth was equally as important. So yeah, big picture, things are looking good, but concerns, maybe set pieces. I've seen several of you guys have kind of put that in here. Saeed is saying, like, we need to talk about our corners. At the start of the season, they were effective. However, they now may as well not give us, since we can't make use of it. Where I'll kind of disagree with you a little bit is that we're still good on the second phase. So maybe not on the first phase, but the second phase. So the corner that we had against Aston Villa, we scored on a corner against Aston Villa, the Zinchenko chance. Trossard almost scored off of a corner against Leicester, but it was called back. And in this game, the Thomas Partey goal and the Reiss Nelson goal also came off of second phases from the corner. So even though they're not as effective as in terms of, like, you know, the first contact being going into the goal, I would say that they still are effective because we are scoring off of those opportunities, whether or not it's the first contact or the second. But in terms of defensively, I think that's where I'm looking at it like it's still an issue. We gave up another set piece goal in this game, and that's like 4 in the last like 6 or something games or whatever. And we need to be much better than that. That's what worries me. Not really offensively, but defensively. And then injuries, you know, now against Sporting, I'm just thinking you have to play pretty rotated lineup because what can you do? And we have a difficult game away from home against Fulham at the weekend. And so we need to win both, but we know which game is most important. So I would imagine we'd see Reiss Nelson, you know, get the shirt. Maybe they'll bring Nketiah in if he's fit enough, and then Saka off of the right, or, you know, Martinelli through the middle maybe, or something like that. I feel like Saka will play. I don't think he'll get rest. And then a midfield of like Jorginho, Xhaka, maybe Jorginho, Fabio Vieira, Odegaard, you know, not sure. And then defensively, I would like to see Kivior come in, start Tierney, start Tomiyasu. Like, I think you have to rotate even more now just because our options are dwindling a little bit, and we really need to be careful ahead of the Fulham match. But injuries are looking like they're starting to kind of like, you know, pile up a little bit. And so we just need to kind of get to that international break where I think that Trossard and Jesus will be back and we'll be fine. But yeah, Ash says ESR, Martinelli, and Nelson is my bet. That wouldn't be bad. Ash says Saliba has to play with Kivior. We cannot leave him with Holding. It's the truth. We're going to have to play one of our center back pairing, and Gabriel's played so many minutes. I think you have to play Saliba plus Kivior, leave Holding out because you can't have everybody rotated. It's too much rotation. And so, yeah, we'll see what Arteta does. But yeah, we're going to see some rotation in that game for sure. John says, Jess, do you have any news on Trossard? What they're saying is that it doesn't look too bad. It was kind of precautionary. He probably won't make the trip to Portugal, but he should be back before the international break, which is beyond March 19th. So it was a groin injury, and he pulled up because he felt something. Martin N says, just play the backups against Sporting. Even if we lose by 2 goals, I'm sure we can catch up on the second leg at the Emirates. I think we just can't lose in Portugal. I think that's what's important. Let's see. Doug says, doing the match review 2 days after the game, 48-hour cool down needed. Well, I always do things with the terrace, and then yesterday the games are just so crazy. Didn't do anything yesterday, and then now I'm doing it today. So I'm still not over it. I'm still not cool, you know. But yeah. Let's see. Maximia says, Jess, did you see GMAG piggyback riding? Yes, off Partey into the tunnel. I was afraid he would injure himself again. Yes, I did see that. I like that bit of content. I love that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we're getting into it now. Amir says, can we please laugh at United now? Yes, we can. Let's go ahead and get into it.
And we're coming for y'all next weekend, too. Anfield hype. We coming for you.
I told you Anfield hype.
Yeah.
2-0 up.
United are coming for y'all, too, man. Don't worry about that. Don't you
Burr, burr, burr. Okay. So if you guys don't know who that is, by the way, that's Lies. And Lies is he does stuff with the terrace and he does stuff on different channels or whatever, but we just have to watch it again. Let's watch it again.
Keep saying Xavi and Iniesta. Anfield hype.
Good thing you didn't delete it.
And we're coming for y'all next weekend too. Anfield hype. We coming for you.
I told you, Anfield
Yeah.
hype. 2-0 up. and then-
United are coming for y'all too, man. Don't worry about that. Don't you
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. That was so funny. Okay, so obviously, if you don't know, I live with a United fan. It took everything in my power, y'all, not to laugh. It did. I was glad he was in the other room because every time a goal went in, I was just like, shit. Like, that's a lot of goals. And I mean, what a score line. 7-0? 7-0? Man United have like a 6 or 8 goal difference. But they're in the title race. Be fucking for real. That is an ass whooping like I never seen. Not just cooked, sauteed, sous vide, all types of stuff, barbecued. Like just I mean, what is this? What is this? It was hilarious, and it was a humbling that needed to come. Now, I would say is like, I know a lot of United fans. Some of them have always maintained that they're not in a title race. You know, they haven't done all the stuff. So, this is not pointed to Terry or KJ or Neeks or any of the United fans that I chill with and I like. But the ones that were talking about us, talking about they felt like they play better football than us, and they're coming for the title and quadruples and all this type of stuff. This was the humbling you needed. Sit down. Liverpool absolutely annihilated them. Klopp said, hold that. I mean, every time a goal went in, you guys. And I mean, just the memes off of the back of it. Martinez getting walked like a dog by Salah. I mean, it was just something I've never seen before. I mean, that is such an unprecedented, that's insane. And this guy, Can we just take a minute? Not only is he like the worst ever, but just the pushing of the ref and the arrogance of it all, and standing in the center circle whining and not challenging him walking. I mean, this is your captain. Are you for real? Like, he looks like he went to war and he lost badly. All the soldiers, all done, all dead. I mean, it's insane. It was really funny. It really, really was. I mean, obviously, I think United have made good strides this season, but that was an ass whooping. And there's been a couple this season. They lost 4-0 to Brighton, Brentford, got beat up by Man City, got beat up by Liverpool. I mean, this is some shit, Leandro says Martinez got marinated in Egyptian seasonings at the highest quality. Dev M says Bruno is the whiniest player ever. Sin says it was like Space Jam when you play against the Monstars. Cancun says he is so cringeworthy. Martin N says great to see Bruno cry. Doug says shambles. Crispy says rat. I mean, hello. Rep says he looks like he just woke up. Mark Taylor says begging to come off. As that says, you cannot not hate Bruno. I mean, he's a very unlikable player. We'll say that. Let's see. James says, go home, Bruno. You're drunk. Blue says, laughing my ass off. Them boys held 7. I couldn't believe it. It was like a buffet of ass whooping. Oh yeah, Bruno is king of salty punks. Cannot stand him. It was funny. Like, people were lying too. They were like, oh, This is the first away game that Bruno Fernandes has lost since 2020. And I was like, he lost to Arsenal like a day ago. Like, what are y'all saying? He's been lost games. Sin says, they say Erik Ten Hag is still standing on the touchline at Anfield. Tony says, Bruno is 1,000,000% my least favorite player. Inject this. He really took the Richarlison thing. Like, he really did. I think he's worse. Philip says 7. Absa says, when your captain is there, when he is your captain, then there's problems. I promise you, Odegaard would have fought for his life. Exactly. I mean, it's just, yeah, as that says, Jess, they often remind us of the 8-2 and they laugh, shut up. The funny thing about it is, like, a lot of them have tried to play it down. And I'm like, you know what, if this was 7-0 to like any other team, I think you can play it down a little bit and just, whatever. But it's because it came from your like arch nemesis, like your biggest adversary, like your number one rival in Liverpool, that it can't be overlooked. Like, it just can't in any way, shape, or form. And so it was hilarious. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And I mean, you can also look at the fact that like Spurs lost too, but it's almost at the point now where like Spurs is funny, but it's almost like it's accepted now and it's like normal for them to continue to lose. So I'm not surprised that they lost to Wolves. They are in a bad way. And the funny thing about Spurs fans is that even though I do think it's funny about Man United and how they lost, I think Spurs fans are really short-sighted in making fun of Manchester United for this loss. Not only because if you look at the table, it's really kind of like embarrassing that they're saying anything, but Liverpool looked like they could string together a couple of wins and make the top 4, which makes Spurs' spot in the top 4 look really, really tenuous. And so I don't understand why Spurs fans are laughing right now. I mean, it's funny for Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans and Manchester City fans, but it can't be funny for you. Like, it can't be, because Liverpool are going to make the top 4. They win their game in hand, they will get it, And so I don't even know why they're sitting there laughing. The fun. Can we go back into time when Spurs fans were telling us that they had the better manager and, they were building something? Spurs don't even, Conte doesn't even want to be there. They're already talking about replacing him. It's been like 5 minutes. He hasn't even been there for like a long time. Not even 2 full seasons. It's like, I love watching them be in shambles. But at the same time, like, I think we almost breathe life into Spurs sometimes. Like, I'm almost at the point now where I'm like, they're losers. Like, their club is small and we shouldn't breathe life into them. Like, Newcastle will overtake them in the Big 6 and they will be nothing. Like, they always have been. I'm not surprised that they lost, but I think what's even more funny is that they lost to a Traore, like, wonder goal. Because Traore like never scores, and that's like hilarious. Matt G says, but Spurs won the January transfer window. They won the transfer windows. They won everything. It's just funny. Deb M says, I remember when Patrick said that Spurs will finish 10 points above Arsenal at the beginning of the season on TFT. Yep, they said a lot of things, and now they're not loving that those things are coming back to bite them in the ass now. Blue says Spurs define themselves through Arsenal. Imagine that. They live to reference themselves to us. What a way to live. Yeah. I mean, the funny thing about like in the group chat, like basically like the first thing that Spurs fans were saying was they weren't even beyond, like they weren't even really just laughing at Man United. The first thing that they were saying is Arsenal still have to go to Anfield. And I was like, the first thing you should be saying is Liverpool can potentially take our spot in the top 4, but you're more concerned about us needing to go to Liverpool because you think that that's going to stop us from winning the league. They are more concerned about us winning the league than them getting Champions League football. That is the definition of a loser. 100%. Like, I was like, are you not worried about yourselves? Hello? Like, are you okay? Like, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Klopp is in the room. O'Malley says Laura Woods fried and Spurs. That Spurs fan. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Let's see. Mr. Austin says still unhappy we didn't sign Mudryk. You see, I don't play this game. I would say that I'm glad that Thrashed is working out, but there's no guarantee that if Mudryk had come to Arsenal that he wouldn't be a hit for us. Arteta's the one who wanted him, and we know that, players play different based on where they go. Like Alexis Sanchez was a star for us, but really suffered at Man United. So I wouldn't really read too much into it. Of course, I would prefer us to get our number one targets because that's who Arteta wanted, but I'm glad that Thrashed is working out. 100%. See what you guys are saying. Mara says Arteta is the difference. See, Walter says Spurs ain't improving anytime soon either. James says April 9th, we go to Anfield. Fingers crossed that their win was as important as their 9-0 win over Bournemouth. The thing I'll say about this is that I don't want to start thinking about that. I see every time a team plays, I saw people saying okay, well, when in the first half, when Leicester was playing decent against Manchester United, I saw a bunch of Arsenal fans saying going to Leicester is not going to be easy. And it ended up being pretty easy. I think Arsenal fans are so scared of not winning the league that we look at every single thing and we're like, this is going to be the thing that undoes us. We don't go to Anfield until April. It's still March, and we have 3 or 4 games before that. I'm not even going to start to think about that until we get up to it, because I also don't think that we're going to play like how Manchester United played against them. I really don't. Am I 100% sure that we'll win? No, because we're not really that great at Anfield. But at the same time, I don't want to start thinking about things and worrying about things until they happen. You know what I mean? Let's see. And yeah, Zgold, we don't usually do well at Anfield, but we also never really did well at the Toilet Bowl, and we won there this season. So a lot of things that don't usually go for Arsenal are going well this time around. So I would just focus on that 7-0 that you guys got, last night. I wouldn't be so concerned about us. But yeah. True says, Brandon says, can't criticize Man United too much. After all, they're in the title race. Mr. Austin says, do you know anything about the Sporting team? No. All I know is what I seen from them when they played Spurs in the Champions League. That's all I really know about them. So it's research that I'll have to do. Maybe I'll try to get somebody on that knows more. Maybe I'll try to get Zach on, but what can you do? Maximia says, why can't Anthony do all that Saka does? Answer, just because you pay 90 million for a cycle doesn't mean it'll become a Rolls Royce. Anthony was dog shit yesterday. He really, really was. He really, really was. So yeah, but those things are funny. Obviously, Spurs losing and Manchester United losing. I like when we win and they lose. But Manchester City won, and they're our biggest competition, our only competition for the title. And so got to hope that they drop some points. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling good because, we go to Sporting. If we can make sure that we don't lose that game, hopefully win, then we play against Fulham away from home. Our away record is good. We're good against teams. We're good against teams away from home, so I'm not afraid to go there or anything like that. So if we could play well there and get that 5th win, we'll be in a really good place. I think then we play Crystal Palace at home. We play Leeds at home. Those are games that we should win, and then we'll start to focus on April, which is when it really is going to start getting to crunch time from there. But hopefully we'll have some of our other players involved then, and we'll be in a good position. So yeah, I'm yesterday and this weekend could not have gone any better. Amira says, Jess, have you seen United fans using the all or nothing clip of Arteta talking about his experience at Anfield to cope? They're officially broken. There's been a lot of copium. Man United fans just need to hold that L. You can't drag Arsenal into it. We've been on the end of heavy defeats, but that doesn't change the fact that you held 7 to your biggest rivals. It just doesn't stop that, and there's nothing worse than that. So you can't use Arsenal to make you feel better. Too much copium. Just hold that. It just is what it is. The worst part is that a lot of them were giving it they were really thinking that they were going to walk up to Anfield and just win. Like, and I'm just like, that's just not how it goes. Like, Anfield is a different monster when you have to go there and they feel like they're playing well. What I will say is I thought early on in the game that Liverpool looked shaky and they needed that goal. And once they got it, then they were right in it. So yeah. Oh, and also Chelsea won a game. And that means Potter will stay longer. So that also happened this weekend, which is great. I love it. Let's see. The Ed Reese says, my favorite quote, Van Dijk saying he could remember all the goals. They were great. Crispy says, for real, they just need to firm it. I mean, you don't have any other choice but to just do that. Like, we're just chilling, you know? The last thing I do want to talk about just before I get out of here is something that's very important, which is Arsenal women won the Continental Cup and they snapped a 4-year goal drought, which is really, really important. And they played well against, Chelsea, which, Chelsea have been the best, club, best team in the women's game, England-wise, for a while now. And so this group of players has done something really good because, last weekend we lost to Chelsea in the FA Cup and we got knocked out. So having to play them again, I think, it took a lot of mentality to get over that hump and beat them this time around and get the silverware. And yeah, it was a really good weekend from an Arsenal perspective. I know some people don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the women's game, which is fine, but it's something that I'm really passionate about and I'm really happy the girls won. A really good goal from Stina Blackstenius, a penalty scored by Kim Little. We actually should have had another penalty, but we were denied that. And then an own goal from Niamh Charles, which gave us 3 goals in the first half after we went down 1-0 in the first 2 minutes. So congratulations to Arsenal women and many more trophies to come for this group. One thing that did stand out to me, though, is the bitterness from Emma Hayes. I just have to play this little clip. It really annoyed me. And yeah, she's bitter.
First and second situations they dominated today, I think, is the thing I'm most disappointed with. And that when you have so many players that play poorly, I don't think anybody in our team played well today. I don't think our team today looked anywhere near the side that I know. And like I said, sometimes when you got a lot of trophies, and we have lots of them, I saw the fire in the players for Arsenal, and I didn't see that in us today. And I think that it made it really, really difficult to get back into the game. And yeah, the third goal killed that off. But no, I'm very disappointed with that complacency from us.
So yeah. There's more to that quote where she said that, Arsenal, they haven't won much domestically and we've won a lot. And I just want to put this out here. Like, I know she's not watching, but I know she knows this, that Arsenal are statistically the most successful club in English women's football. Historically, they are holding the record for the most titles won in each domestic competition that they played in. This altogether, all these numbers it's 50 plus domestic trophies. And so she is talking out of her absolute ass there, saying they haven't won anything domestically or they haven't won much domestically. Arsenal are also the only women's team in England to have ever won the Champions League, something that Chelsea have not been able to do. So she needs to stay in her lane. She also worked for Arsenal and was an assistant coach, so I know she knows this. But Arsenal women more than deserved. It wasn't just because they were complacent. It was because tactically we were better than them. We wanted it more. And, I think she should have just said the better team won and just kept her mouth shut, because all she looked like that was just like bitterness just coming out of her pores. It was ridiculous. And I love Emma Hayes and she's done a lot for the women's game, but be freaking for real. Arsenal women are still historically the most decorated women's team in WSL history. Don't be bitter, be better. Come on. C. Wilder says her words translate to it hurts a lot. Blue says, I can't wait for the day when we're back talking like Arsenal are actually the interstellar club that we are. Crispy says, hold that, Emma. Exactly. Mara says she needs to stop with all that capping. Michael says, history lesson vibes. Tell him, Jess. I mean, when she was saying that, I was just like, this is when you went too far. Like, you should have just stopped that. I'm disappointed with my players and the best team won and well done, Arsenal, and this and that. But she went into the bitterness, and that's where I was just like, no, let's stop that. And the thing about this is, like, we did, obviously they have been good in the last couple of years and we have struggled to win trophies, but Arsenal snapping that 4-year goal drought is bad news for Chelsea because they just needed to get over that mental hump of not winning trophies for a while. And from here on out, you can bet that this team is going to win more and put Chelsea under more pressure. So she needs to suck it up. Ellie says, Jonas basically said, we outplayed you 3 games running. They got lucky in the FA Cup game. I mean, in the FA Cup game, it was really disappointing just because Arsenal women did play well without that cutting edge, and we just weren't good enough. Like, you know what I mean? And then the first game that we played them, which was a draw, I believe, probably should have won that one as well. So we haven't been bad against them, and we haven't been terrible all season. It hasn't been our best season, but when you lose 2 of your best players in Viviana Miedema and Beth Mead, it's really hard to rebound from that. And the team is got that trophy. And I think that's going to be the catalyst for the end of the season. So yeah, as that says, Jess, how are we in the league? We're in 4th, but we have a game in hand. We haven't been great, but we can still make that up in the second half of the season. Mamang says, Man United girls are also good. They are good. Lynn says, hi, Jess. Once again, it is Arsenal, and both manager for women have for the women have won this trophy over a more experienced Emma Hayes, and same for Arteta. I mean, you could just, the bitterness is just there. And because she knows that an Arsenal team that is going to get over this trophy drought is now a very dangerous Arsenal side. And it's really been Chelsea and Arsenal for the last like maybe 5-6 years that have been the most dangerous teams in the league. And now Manchester United is coming up, but you could just feel like that level of like, you know, and so hold that. John says, Arsenal women continue to prove haters wrong, just like Arsenal men. Abscess says, we smashed Chelsea. By the way, I saw the game and the way we played really well, even coming from a goal down. The Chelsea manager was funny. She wants to cry. So bitter. I loved it just because it's just like, you know what's coming. You know what's coming. This team is really, really good. I know, you know, they struggled in the league a little bit, but you cannot overlook that you lose Viv and Beth. You cannot overlook that. And once you put that into context, and we have some new players in the fold as well, it's going to take a minute for this team to kind of like gel together and get its groove. But once it does, it's going to be so dangerous. We have so much quality. And so, like I said, well done to Arsenal women. Well done to Arsenal men. A big weekend for the Arsenal, and hopefully many, many good weekends to come. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want more football content, obviously you can go over to the Football Terrace. They just started maybe 15 minutes ago on the Big Six show. They're going to be talking about Arsenal and Man United in the entire weekend. So you might want to jump over there and get some laughs. But really, really, really like talking to you guys. You guys are amazing. Obviously. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.